These guys have chosen Bitcoin as their path to self-sovereignty, to an early retirement, and to building generational wealth for their family.
It was actually COVID to start with, so going down rabbit holes, learning. So I actually watched a video or podcast with Paul Check and Joe Bryan, which was What's the Problem? And it just resonated just straight away.
Always looked at Bitcoin, I had it on my favourites list on my
Too expensive
account
sort of thing,
and never did anything with it. Just looked at that as the barometer, in a sense, for what was going on, but thought, well, I can't buy one of them. They're too much.
I personally think fix the money and it will fix the world. There was no real solution, and then now have found Bitcoin.
A big light bulb moment for me, which really got me on board, was the money's broken. Inflation is just, in my point of view, it's an unlegislated tax. Probably magic money we hear quite a lot, or it's a scam. They're the big two.
If we care about our financial future, start educating ourselves, because no one's going to tell us about this.
Self-custody is...
Today I'm excited to be joined by Aussie couple Matt and Bobbie Webb. And these guys have chosen Bitcoin as their path to self-sovereignty, to an early retirement, and to building generational wealth for their family. I'm absolutely thrilled that Matt and Bobbie have agreed to join me here today. We're going to dive deep into some really important topics, and I'm sure you're going to get tremendous value from today's session. Like I said, an Aussie couple who are on this journey, and we're going to unpack a lot for you here today. Matt, Bobbie, welcome. Great to have you guys here. How is things going for you guys right now?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Zane.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. All good this end.
Yeah.
So you guys are over in all the way over in WA. Which part of WA are you at?
We're in Mandurah. So just south of Perth, about an hour's drive south of Perth. Beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Right near the beach, yeah. And I've been down there myself a couple of times on my way to down south, Margaret River, a couple of mountain biking events I've done there over the years, but definitely a beautiful part of the country, that's for sure. Now, guys, again, thank you for joining me today, and I really want to get into kind of your journey and what brought you guys to Bitcoin, the path that you're on, and I'm sure that my listeners are going to get a lot of value from listening to an Aussie couple really share their story, because if there's one thing I've learned in doing many, many coaching calls over the past 12 months, it's that one of the toughest things is getting a couple to get onto the same page on this Bitcoin journey. So, guys, what I'd love to ask you right up front is, what kind of drew you to Bitcoin? Was there something in particular that stood out? Did you maybe hear about it and then dismiss it like everybody else? What was your kind of path to finding Bitcoin in the beginning?
Well, it was actually COVID to start with, so going down rabbit holes, learning. We had a business, so that was hard for 3 years. During those times, we sold it 2 years ago, but I'd just gone down rabbit holes. Health, our daughter is studying with Paul Check, so I actually watched a video or podcast with Paul Check and Joe Bryan, which was What's the Problem?
Yeah.
It just resonated just straight away. And I'm one of those people that once I find something, I just, keep
Latch
going
on.
with it, latch on, and just watch videos and read books. And so I think roughly 6 months ago.
Yeah, probably 6 months. Bobby started first. I had some shit coins, and I was dabbling around in the number go up game for a bit there, and always looked at Bitcoin. I had it on my favourites list on my
Too expensive
account
sort of thing,
and never did anything with it. Just looked at that as the barometer, in a sense, for what was going on, but thought, well, I can't buy one of them. They're too much, and played around with the other ones. And once you Bobby got me on board more, off we went. And here we are.
We're both like, we'll send each other videos, and like we're both pretty much on exactly the same wavelength, you call it.
Wavelength, signal, and annoying the kids daily with not Bitcoin again. So that's the crux of the beginning. But it's been a bit of a ride. But now we're I think we're probably about, I would say, 30% of the learning. There's still a lot more to go, but
Well, I don't think it's ever ending, but I just see it as, it's just a miracle, I reckon. If only people would take the step to watch a video or read a book, and life changing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why Bitcoin is life-changing. And obviously a lot of people, it takes them some time to realize that, because most people, they kind of just think of Bitcoin as like a stock or a share or just another regular investment, right? And you guys know far better than that because you've put the time in. But what is it you think that Bitcoin solves? What is the main problem that Bitcoin solves that really kind of stuck out for you guys as to why you should be paying attention to this?
Personally think fix the money and it will fix the world, because it's like during COVID, you get into the health side and, rabbit holes or whatever, but there was no real solution. And then now you have found Bitcoin. It seems to just be the top of the pyramid, that if we fix the money, the whole system would just turn around. Like, well, that's how I get it in my head.
I think the big light bulb moment for me, which really got me on board, was the money's broken. No one really ever talked about in my circles anyway, how inflation is just, in my point of view, it's an unlegislated tax. It's just, they call it 3%. It's based on what we know as a loaf of bread at the shops or a basket of groceries without milk or bread, or it's not calculated on
insurance,
fuel, power, which is one of our biggest ones. So, I mean, if it's running
all the things that are most important to us aren't included in the basket of goods.
Exactly,
daily
to survive, to get by.
Yeah. So on that note, Bitcoin, when you start to really understand what it is, its number go up in a sense, but it's
a free market and it's for humanity. It's not just a few, people running the world or running it's gives it back to the people in a way. Like,
it's a deflationary asset, isn't it? So at the end of the day, the government prints more money, things cost more, so we lose purchasing power on a daily scale, really. I mean, nothing's getting cheaper. I can have a conversation with anyone and say, please tell me something that's getting cheaper. What are you buying each week that's costing less, not more? And I don't think there's too many people that can answer that question. But from what we've seen on the long time horizon, Bitcoin, everything gets cheaper. So it's a deflationary asset.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part, Matt, for the average person to grasp. Because in order to understand Bitcoin, you have to realize that it's the opposite of everything that we've learned about money, right? And so what you guys are sharing there is that phenomenon that we only know, and that is that the price of everything just climbs year after year after year. There's really not many items at all other than, I guess, electronics, but pretty much everything else just goes up year on year. Insurance policies, food, grocery bills, school fees, petrol.
And it's sort of been the last 5 to 10 years, hasn't it? Or even 5 years, that it's skyrocketed, that everyone's really starting to feel it now.
Yeah, but I think the point there, guys, that most people really don't get is that they don't understand why. They can feel within their own life that things are getting progressively harder, but they just can't pinpoint exactly why that is, right?
Yeah.
And so what you guys are speaking to there is this fundamental reality that when you have access to the money printer, as the government and central banks do, they can essentially fund their spending programs and generate stimulus and liquidity and quantitative easing, all of these different fancy terms that they use to essentially describe money printing, and thereby dilute the value or the purchasing power of our savings. And so we no longer have a form of money or currency that is robust, that we can trust anymore, because the value of it just keeps getting diluted. So, I think what you guys are explaining there is just so fundamental to understanding Bitcoin from a first principles perspective. And that is that you got to first realize that money is broken, like you said there, Matt. And then in order to really start to understand Bitcoin, you've got to realize that Bitcoin is the opposite of that. It's a fixed and finite form of money that nobody can debase, that nobody can print. And so once you get that, in my mind, you're kind of half the way there. Would you say that, in terms of getting to that first base where the whole world starts to open up for you as to your understanding of this?
Definitely, mate. Like, I have quite a few conversations now with guys at work, and that, in my view, that's the biggest hurdle. When you start to explain that inflation's actually around 11%, like, and we can get into super as well, obviously. Your best super's 8, maybe 10 if you're lucky. So when you start to break it down into those percentages, I think that's the entry point with someone to actually quite understand where you need to shift your focus and deploy your assets into a different area. And I think once you figure that out, that's when you start to really understand what Bitcoin does. Most people want that quick number go up. That's normal. We all work hard for our money. We want best bang for buck. I believe that's where you open the door to where Bitcoin can really help when you set your time horizon high. That short time gain doesn't seem to be the answer, and that's the
It's
hurdle.
nothing when you understand Bitcoin. It's not really.
It's not really on their radar. But I do find that's when you show where the money's broken and you read the right books and you watch the right material on podcasts, and that's when it points you in the direction of, like, I think a lot of people are really comfortable. So our house values have shot through the roof, like where we are now. I think the last 2-3 years, Mandra's done 70% jump. Like, we know that's not normal. We know our houses aren't worth this. We all have these conversations, like, but I think that's what makes people comfortable. But, like, as we know now, that's not the value. Your purchasing power is being eroded daily. Like, so that's not the value of your house, but you're still comfortable with that. Like, you look at your super and you think, oh, that's rising. But once you spend it, that's when you realise, I'm not getting what I'm getting. What have we lost? 63% of our value, like $100 5 years ago. What would that buy you now? Take 63% off.
I think it's about $47 worth of stuff. So we've lost about 53% in five years. Now, to the uninitiated, right? If you've got $1,000 sitting in the bank, say in January 2020, right? That same $1,000, it might still be sitting in your bank, and it might look the same and feel the same and smell the same. But the reality is, if you go and use that $1,000 to consume goods and services, you'll notice that it's going to buy you. The facts and figures are 53% less than it did 5 years ago. And so this is the reality. And Bobby, I love that you shared up front Joe Bryan's video, What's the Problem? And I believe it's one of the best resources out there for kind of giving people an introduction as to what the problem is that Bitcoin solves, right? And look, it's a 30 or 40 minute video?
Yeah, 40 minutes.
I think that it's about 40 minutes. So there's really no excuse, is there, for anybody who is looking to at least be inquisitive as to what Bitcoin is and what is the problem that it solves. There's no excuse for anybody to not
chuck
at
it on
least
while
go
you're doing the vacuuming. That's what I do. I chuck it on while I'm doing the dishes, vacuuming, like spare time. Don't put music on, learn something.
It's always the one I point to. Like, I have a guy at work, and he wrote it down, and then a week later comes back, asks me more questions. What is it? It's not real. It's magic money. Did you watch the video, mate? No, I haven't watched it yet. But you got 20 minutes to talk to me and poke holes in it. Then off I go. I start getting like, mate, I'm not going to keep talking about this unless you just go and watch that first. Like, I don't think he still watched it, but he still asks me questions. But that's cool. I'm happy to try and help.
We were there. We were there not long ago, so I understand.
Yeah.
If you're ready to become truly self-sovereign, join my Bitcoin Success Circle. This is my private mentorship community. And inside the circle, you'll get one-on-one coaching from me, access to our 6 modules of recorded training, and you'll be connected with our growing community of like-minded Bitcoiners. This is a really powerful place to be, and everybody who's joined the circle is absolutely delighted that they did. Now, when you join us inside the circle, you'll gain immediate access to our membership portal. And inside the portal, you'll find our 6 modules of recorded training. The first 3 modules I co-host with Mr. Bisha Kadira. He is COO, Chief Operating Officer at Stormrake. The second half of the training, I co-host that with Mr. Tony Yazbek. He is founder of the Bitcoin Way. So all of this is inside the program. I know you're absolutely going to love it and get tremendous value from it. With that said, I'd love for you to join me. You won't regret it, and I'll see you inside the circle.
But, you know, I think it does speak to the fact, guys, that we're at a time and place now where it's incumbent on us as individuals, if we care about our financial future, to pay attention to what's going on, right? And to start educating ourselves, because no one's going to tell us about this. No one's going to educate us about this. If you're expecting the Today Show or the 6 o'clock news or the treasurer or your financial planner or your accountant to educate you on Bitcoin, I've got bad news for you. It's not going to happen, right? So we're at a time and place now where you've got to be proactive and willing to go and educate yourself. And just these little resources like this video, What's the Problem by Joe Bryan, that can really open up a whole new doorway for you. And from there, you can go and read The Big Print by Lawrence Lepard or The Bitcoin Standard by Seyfedin Ammous. There's so many fantastic resources out there. Go and listen to some long-form podcasts with somebody like a Jeff Booth or a Tony Yazbek from the Bitcoin Way. And before you know where you are, you're just going, holy hell, you know, this is just a completely different world. You agree with that?
Definitely. I always explain it to the kids in that it's like two systems or 2 worlds running, and we're in the old system and we're so wanting to get to here. You got to have patience to jump up and get over to the new system. But it's like you've got life and excitement back because you can see a bright future.
Yeah, that's the word patience is the big one. That we're not very patient people, and that is the test. Like the patience is the test. It's like we set it all up in place now. Now we let it do its thing, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's the game.
And I want to jump down that rabbit hole very shortly, guys, because you know, I'm familiar with the journey you guys are on, and I'd love for you to share with the audience your strategy and where you're taking this. Before we go down that path, what I'd love to know is, as Aussies, because I get a lot of comments and feedback from people who I consult with, who say, we just love talking to you because you're an Aussie voice in this crazy Bitcoin world, this kind of American-centric, you know, it's all kind of lights and camera action and glitz and glamour and everything's so fast and they just like listening to a calm Aussie voice. And I'm sure people are going to resonate very much with you guys also, because that's kind of how we tend to be with these things. But what I'd love to know from you is, what concerns you most right now about the direction of our country? I mean, you guys are parents to 3 kids, okay? And so you've got to be, I'm sure, in part on this Bitcoin journey because you can see that you need a bit of an escape hatch from what's going down. What do you want to share about the future of Australia and your concerns?
The biggest one will be cost of living and housing. Like our kids are, you know, 2 of them are older teenagers. I can't see them entering the housing market with the way it is now. It's just a runaway train wreck. Inflation and housing and the cost of living combined, I'm not sure how they get a foot in the door without either investing in something like Bitcoin or working bloody hard just to get by. You're never going to save a deposit. Inflation's going to beat what you're saving. So I think that, combined with the overreach of the government and the constant goalposts moving with the taxes, is, for me, it's just alarm bells. And as I pointed out before, Zane, we can't get in front if it just they keep shifting the markets. Like, I don't know whether it's incompetence or control from other bodies with the government. It's just further and further out of our reach for what we can control with our own money and our own assets. And sometimes you feel like a sitting duck with whichever way you move, because you don't know what they're going to tax next, what honeypot they're coming for, like, so to speak. So Yeah, I mean, there's so many different avenues you can talk about. We talk about this stuff sort of daily, which I'm not sure many people do. And it might be, overreaction or.
Well, it's so interesting because it's helping us as humans. It's not just going to work and it's a big mindset change, I think. Is this what we've been programmed to have and do our whole life? Is this normal, or is there more to life than working really hard, 9 to 5, having the house, having the kids, having your once a year holiday, and then when you retire, going and doing your big trip? Is that really what everyone wants? Or, I don't know.
Yeah. Is there other forms of money? Well, is there other forms of money or wealth, asset growth that we can do things earlier? Do we need to live with all this debt over top of us, or do we have savings, which we've never been taught to do, so.
Well, you have, but it's with inflation, it's just eating it away. It's not worth having savings now, is it?
Well, you and I both know that, but most people are yet to kind of realise that at a deep level, and I guess we've already touched on this, just how inflation is this sinister form of taxation that kind of eats away at the value of our livelihood and our purchasing power. And most people are just getting up and they're going to work and they're blindly devoting their time and energy for this thing that we call money, this thing called the Aussie dollar, not realizing that the value of those dollars they're earning is being gradually and silently extracted from them, and they can't tax us anymore because that would become politically unpopular. I think the top marginal tax rate in Australia is 47%. And so they can't tax us anymore. And so what do? They debase the value of the currency, right? Yeah. Which demonetizes the government debt. So it makes the pool of capital or currency out there greater, meaning that the amount of debt that they've got as a proportion of that currency is smaller, but thereby they're actually destroying the purchasing power of savers. Okay. And so typically the working class and even the middle class, who historically have utilized savings as a way to get ahead, to build prosperity, now all of a sudden they're expected to learn about the history of money and the problems with fiat currency, right? And to educate themselves about what's actually happening to their money and the fact that fiat currency and dollars, that's not real money. It's just this illusionary system that really went into overdrive in 1971, where we all came off the gold standard. And since that time, the only thing that the dollar has been backed by is our faith and our trust.
Yeah, it's not.
So it's
not tied to anything.
Yeah, and most people just don't realize that. And I think if people just took the time to just read a little about money and the history of money and fiat currencies and the fact that every currency eventually actually fails, and that what they're working for right now is actually a failing currency, a currency that's lost 93% of its value since 1971, right? And the fact that their house price is not going up when you price it in hard money, such as Bitcoin, it's only going up in illusionary, inflationary dollars. So guys, this is me interviewing you, not you interviewing me. So I don't want to get too carried away here, but I do really think that anybody who's listening here today who hasn't yet taken the time to go and watch that video, What's the Problem, to understand why money is broken, why inflation is a sinister form of taxation that gradually erodes at the value of your savings and your standard of living, that would be a really important first step, wouldn't you guys say?
100%. Mate, it's very well articulated, that video. I think Joe set that up quite well from the time frame of it as well. It's short enough and it hits the point quite quickly. And I think anyone that wants to learn or even explain to someone, that's the one to watch.
Most definitely.
It's
definitely the best. Just watch that, and then if it doesn't resonate, don't worry about it. But it's only 40 minutes of your life. Watch it, and it'll open
and what
it
would
up.
What would you guys say is the biggest misconception out there among people in your social circle or family is about Bitcoin that perhaps you've tried to talk them through, or maybe you've given up. What would you say is the biggest misconception?
Probably magic money we hear quite a lot, or it's a scam. They're the big two. Like, it's nothing. It's not tied to anything. It's digital money. My usual response to that is, well, what do you think's in the bank now when you check your app on your phone? Like, we all know, go to the bank tomorrow and say, can I please have all my money in cash, or even 10,000 or 5,000? You will get the question. You will get, what's this for? And yeah, I've had guys at work come up with some pretty interesting interesting things they want to spend it on just to throw the teller off. But it's not your money, and it's not safe in the banks either. But on that point, that's probably the biggest one, digital. And usually, you've been scammed. We've heard these stories. Channel 7 or a Current Affairs run this article on, an older lady that might have been scammed over the phone and Bitcoin. We've had family members say that, and maybe a couple of friends, but that would be the two, Zane, I would say.
Interesting stuff, isn't it? Because, we're starting to see now that the banks are starting to become a little more hostile towards people onboarding, not just into Bitcoin, but other decentralized assets, even to buy gold and silver. And even people have told me recently that they've struggled to access certain meaningful amounts of money to get their money out of Australia overseas and things like that. And so we're just seeing a situation now, which I often refer to as red flags, where this money that is sitting in the bank that we have come to understand for decades belongs to us is not necessarily ours, particularly if push comes to shove and we have any kind of false flag event or black swan or any kind of excuse to suspend or halt the financial system. If we had a GFC Mark II, I mean, there's so much more debt in the system now than there was back in 2008. There's a lot of very, very smart financial analysts who believe that the next time we have a GFC, it's going to make 2008 look like a walk in the park, a picnic. So, it's very interesting times, isn't it, guys, where we start to assess, if we're paying attention, this state of our financial lives and why is it that we're struggling to do with our money as we see fit? Why are all these constraints, coming our way? So it's I think this is kind of why people like you guys have kind of woken up to looking at an alternative. And what I'd love to do is just have this chat with you guys about the direction you've taken and how you're doing this. Do you want to just share with the audience, guys, how you've approached getting started in Bitcoin and how far along the journey you guys are?
Yeah, well, it was all really you, Zane. Like, we watched Adam Hudson and you on the interview, and then we got in contact and just, so
you put us in the right direction with who we need to speak to and what resources to use, basically. But yeah,
and we just once we make our mind up, we were just bang, bang, bang. So we're up to, I think, halfway through or even further through the Bitcoin way now with our with SMSF, and we do dollar cost averaging every week. We're not overly wealthy. I work just a casual job, so we don't have a lot of money to put in for our personal side of it. But
SMSF that's our pool, that's our asset,
main strategy.
Yeah, and from what we've gained from that is, to anyone listening, it's the best pool of money you can grab and deploy to Bitcoin, in our opinion, because it has that structured time horizon. You can't touch it. I'm 46, Bobby's 44, so we've got at least 14, 15 years before we can actually access that money. So as much as I'd like to say once we deployed it, I don't look at the price, I do. You can't use that. You can't access it. We can chop and change and diversify and invest later on. But I think once that's set up, the feeling of that self-control, I think, would be the other thing. I think having responsibility for your own money with no third party, you are literally in full control, it bears the weight of responsibility. But I think responsibility is a form of freedom. I think having someone else look after your stuff she'll be right, mate. But as we've just discussed, is it? Is it going to be all right, mate?
Yeah, well, interestingly, just this year, we've seen some concerning developments in the superannuation space. I mean, we had some major industry funds earlier this year that were the subject of a cyber attack. It was all over the news. I think it was back in April. And then we had a major fund go down. About 12,000 superannuation accounts went down with it. I think that was back in August, September. And from what I understand, it's under investigation. There was a misappropriation of a lot of money, and people who were on the verge of retirement have lost essentially their retirement accounts have gone to zero. So, when you entrust the system, which is really no fault of our own. I mean, we've kind of been raised to do that, haven't we? I mean, we've had no reason to not trust it. But now we're seeing these signs that, hang on, if you've worked for 20, 30, 40 years and you've been allocating to your retirement account in the hope that one day you're going to get to that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and it's going to serve you in retirement. But what happens when you get to your 50s or late 50s or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and your superannuation fund says a big fat zero on the screen?
Yeah, and just on that, Zane, even when you look at the figures, like the average person my age, 45, 46, I think the data's $200,000 is the average amount of super in that account. I mean, at 8% at probably best, maybe 10, what does that equate to? Maybe $1 million when you're 60? What's that going to buy you at 11% inflation tax, we'll call it? You actually need to really start looking at, especially at our age, and I'm glad we have, because I thought ours was pretty good, but it's actually not going to be enough money. Not the rate of knots now, the cost of living. You're just not going to keep up with it. So, yeah, we think we're on the right path, and we're glad to be here and doing what we're doing and to share it. I appreciate the interview, to be honest, because
we're just everyday, Aussies that we're not, fancy.
Yeah, and I think the more of these conversations that can be had, the more it's going to help other people to realise that there is a plan B, there is an opt-out, there is a way to set things up that allows you to sleep well at night. I guess it comes with time, right? Because the thing about Bitcoin is we're not here to convince anybody to go and buy Bitcoin or to put their retirement savings into it. We're just here to say, go and learn about this. Go and watch some videos, read some books, and you'll make your own decisions. You agree with that?
Oh, most definitely.
100%.
Yeah.
There's some fairly clever people using Bitcoin, and our aim is to not only just invest in it, but to live on the Bitcoin standard. That once you start figuring it out, a lot of, again, trying to orange pill people or explain it to people, you do get to a level where you do feel you're so far in front that you do get those blank stares sometimes, but
it's not a way in front. It's just more knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, when you get to that point, it's hard to explain, but
because you're so happy and you've got such a conviction that you don't actually, we want to help people because we are so convicted and want a better society. Whereas,
I think the biggest one is another kickback you get taxed when you take your profits off the top, of whatever gain you get on your Bitcoin. But it's like, well, no, we won't sell our Bitcoin. We want to live where we use Bitcoin. We don't want to go back. We're not buying Bitcoin. We're selling fiat. And I think that one is another good one that might resonate with someone. I have a guy at work that he sells honey, and he's a beekeeper. I pay him in sats now through the blue ball lot. And I just think that's brilliant. It's good practice. He's sort of on board, but dollar cost averages, but I think that's great. Like, we've got a little community already at work with, they come to me and ask a few questions here and there, and where are you at now? And so it is growing. It's just very early.
Yeah, it is. And I was having a conversation today with a gentleman on a call I did, and he was wrestling with the idea of not selling his Bitcoin, right? And On the one hand, he was really convicted. He's like right down the rabbit hole and the journey with self-custody and becoming self-sovereign, but there's this nagging voice that's just there kind of in the back of his mind that is making him kind of think to himself, well, is there a point where I would actually sell my Bitcoin? And what I had to remind him of is that when you sell your Bitcoin, what you're actually doing is you're selling the world's best performing asset for one of the world's worst, right?
For a shit
So
coin.
the very currency, inflationary currency of which there's no checks and balances, we don't know how much of it's in circulation at any given time, that continues to debase the value of our savings, that very thing that we have that light bulb moment that we choose to escape, and we choose Bitcoin as the escape hatch for that. And then as time goes on, you start to double guess yourself and you go, well, hang on, is it the volatility? Is it listening to somebody in your family who hasn't done the work on it? What is it? That voice starts to chip away and you go, well, okay, one day Bitcoin's going to be worth $1 million. And if that means you've 10 or 20x'd your investment, is that going to be a seductive point in order, to sell your Bitcoin? And I had to remind him, I said, okay, first thing to realize is that you're going to have a nice handy tax bill if you do that, right? If you live in this country. So you've got capital gains tax to consider. And then the other thing to consider is, will you be able to get back in the market? Will you be able to acquire more Bitcoin than you started with? And a lot of people believe that they can just time the market, sell at the top, buy at the bottom, and they're going to end up doubling their stack. But it doesn't quite work like that, right? It's very, very difficult to do. In fact, I'm yet to meet a single person who has been able to do that successfully. So yeah,
that's the hard part, isn't it? It's that fear from pricing it in the system you're living in. If we can quote, and I'll give it a crack, Jeff Booth, like inflationary market, deflationary. One's a free market, one's not. We've never lived in a free market. So why would you not think in that way? You only think in the system we're in, and it's the only system we've ever had in our lifetime. And like you pointed to before, they always fail. They have done. The fiat system's failed, years on years, hasn't it? Generations on generations. And whether we're at that point now, I believe we are close to it. So I'm quite happy to shift. We're going to shift and try and stay. Is it hard? Yes, it is hard. But when you empower yourself and you believe strongly enough and you do the research, it takes hours. We probably do 2 hours a day just of podcasts. So once you do the work, you will understand it. So if that's the message we can pass on, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. I just want to reinforce a point you guys made earlier about superannuation being this low-hanging fruit opportunity for most people to deploy into Bitcoin, because I think a lot of people, I think you might have touched on this earlier, Matt, when you were talking about, you were involved in some other cryptos because you saw Bitcoin's price and it was like, oh, one Bitcoin is X tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like, I can buy 1,000 XRP or Ethereum or whatever it might be. And there is this kind of unit bias that naturally comes up for a lot of people where they go, well, why would I buy one of those when I can have 10 of those, right? That is the wrong way to look at it. But the point is that I think for a lot of people, when they do look at how much the price is of one whole Bitcoin, they get a little spooked, right? Or they get a little discombobulated because they say, well, gee, I remember when that thing was $5,000 or $10,000 and somebody told me about it and I didn't pay attention to it. Well, now I've missed the boat, right? But what they're not realizing is that we're still at less than 5% adoption. It's a fixed and finite asset, right, that they'll never be able to make any more. There's like 65 to 70,000 millionaires worldwide. Some of them are billionaires, but there's only 21 million Bitcoin. So not even every millionaire on earth is going to be able to have one whole Bitcoin. And a lot of people don't realize that you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can buy a half or a 0.25 or a 0.1 whatever it is, you can buy $100 worth of Bitcoin. You can do anything just to get you started because Bitcoin is highly fractional. And so when it comes to planning for retirement, which I know that you guys have been really big on securing your super into an SMSF, I think a lot of people find that very attractive, like you said, Matt, because it's not money that they can participate in or touch for, 10, 15 years until they retire. And so it's not going to disrupt your everyday life utilizing your super to buy Bitcoin, right? Because it's not part of your everyday capital or living expenses or savings. And so I think it's important just for the listener to understand that there are lots and lots of people who are choosing, and not just to buy Bitcoin, but just so that they can be in control of their own retirement account, because they look at the crappy returns that industry funds are doing, which are that, 7 to 8%, 10% if you're lucky, but it's not even keeping up with true inflation. And so if we've got these institutions and these money managers that are entrusting to help us, fund our retirement, but they're not even keeping up with real inflation, what are they doing? We might as well do it ourselves and we've got more of a chance, right? So I just think it's important just to really highlight the fact that, there are ways and means to secure a meaningful amount of Bitcoin that don't require you to disrupt your everyday lifestyle or tap into your income or your savings. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to utilize your superannuation. And particularly if there's two of you like you guys, did you guys combine your super into a combined trust?
I didn't have much. I haven't worked a lot, so yeah.
She's been a mum and having her own business. Yeah, where's the extra money to stack super when you're getting hammered by the government every which way you move?
But yeah, we did combine them, but yeah.
Yeah, we did. So short answer, yes. No,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and a lot of people, some people are in Bobby's situation and some people aren't. Some people, there's been two people working for a lot of years together and they wake up one day and they've each got, I don't know, $200,000, $300,000 sitting there. They go and combine it. They've got a really significant amount of capital that they can then deploy. And even if they put 10% of it into Bitcoin, the performance of that portfolio in their superannuation, it's going to be very, very exciting over a long period of time. And so when you guys look at your superannuation, have you guys diversified or have you just kept everything pretty much in Bitcoin, or how have you approached that?
Yeah, mostly into Bitcoin. Yeah, we're going to diversify a little bit maybe, but we're still trying to decide what to do. We're still early with it. So yeah, we have been stacking pretty good into Bitcoin. Yeah.
I'd rather just Bitcoin mining or something. I'm 100% fiction into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you consider maybe some Australian blue chip shares or gold or silver or anything like that? Or
probably gold and silver would be the second best.
That would be just about it. Yeah, gold or silver, just another hard asset that's not digital, obviously. I like gold, Bitcoin. I'm not one or the other. There is a bit of noise out there with, the likes of people like Peter Schiff and people like that. I don't see why we need to have one or the other. I think it's up to you as an individual. But yeah, I see them one's just new age, one's analog, one's
Yeah, that's right. And I think Peter Schiff, we're going to go a long way to try and convince him to come over to the Bitcoin side. He's been wrong time and time again over many, many years. But I do love him though. I think he's a great guy. But for whatever reason, he's just fully decided to ignore Bitcoin at all costs.
I think he owns it, Zane. I think he owns some Bitcoin. He has. He does go to some of the Bitcoin conventions, so he must have some.
He'll just never admit it.
Yeah,
he's pretty resolute at just saying no. You just got to stick with gold. So, guys, what I'd love to do is talk about self-custody, because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize with Bitcoin, in particular, if you've set up an SMSF and you're buying Bitcoin inside your SMSF, you can also self-custody your Bitcoin. What do you guys think about self-custody? Why do you think that's important? Why should people be paying attention to that?
It's a no-brainer. Self-custody is everything. Without self-custody, in my opinion, you're just waiting for someone else to take your Bitcoin. We've seen what happened in the past with FTX and exchanges, like through you and the Bitcoin way, we've really learned that if it's not your keys, it's not your Bitcoin. So we place a massive amount of importance on self-custody, and we're just going through now with the Bitcoin way. Tony and the guys there, they're brilliant. Like, I just never thought we'd be where we are now with, we're jumping on Zoom calls and, we're talking to Bert in the Netherlands and Mo I think he was in England, and you just, the way it's opened up has just been brilliant. But to the self-custody side of things, I can't see how you would do it on your own. But as far as how important it is, I think once people realise that you're in full control of a quite a large amount of money, that, based on the CAGR that we talk about and the compound annual growth rate, it's a substantial amount of money in the future. So you want to really look after it. You are your own bank. And like I pointed out before, that comes down to responsibility. So you really need to be setting your vault up the best way you can, as far as I see.
And what's interesting to me on that point too, because if you guys are working with the Bitcoin way, you'll know that there's an upfront fee attached to their service. And I think sometimes people shy away from engaging a company like the Bitcoin way or some other form of, service provider that can really help them because they feel like they can learn it all themselves, right? But what do you guys think in terms of what you've learned so far on the Bitcoin way journey with their live help, their live coaching sessions? Is it something you feel like you could have done on your own, or do you feel like you've just...
Absolutely not.
No.
You just couldn't do it. Like, we're not that tech savvy.
Nah, there's
Even
no
now.
way we could have done it without the Bitcoin way. It's the best money we've spent, and you've got to spend money for knowledge. As simple as that. You just you do it properly the first time, and that's our thing. We're doing it the right way the first time. Other people have learned from the mistakes and teaching the likes of us, so we're going to listen to the experts.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realise that the Bitcoin way, they don't have any access to your Bitcoin, right?
No.
I mean, they like teach you how to fish, right? Essentially, everything that they do is do this, do that, but you guys are the only ones who are in control of your seed phrase, of your passphrase, of your PIN numbers on your wallets, all of that,
And you get signal with them as well. So if you do get stuck and you need help, you can send them a message and you get a message back within a couple of minutes explaining it and helping you. Like,
where do you get, again, I'm going to bash the banks here. Try ring the bank and get someone to help you with an app, with a PIN number, a new credit card. I don't even think you get a human. You just don't get the response you need. So that's the way I see them. They are literally
top notch.
They're just at your service, and that's what you pay for. So spend the money, get the service, get the expertise.
And are you guys, I guess you haven't got to the point yet where you're looking at succession planning in your journey. Where are you guys up
very
to?
Close.
Have you? Okay, so you already got set up with your node, and you've done your test sends. You got your Sparrow. You're all set. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got it all in there, and we've played around and stuff. The next one I think is
up to the second cold card, and
disaster recovery, and
recovery. Just in the process.
I think for the listener guys, this side of Bitcoin can be a little bit overwhelming at the beginning, right? But what I always say is that the true revolution of Bitcoin is self-custody. It's not just number go up, which is kind of a byproduct of it being a finite form of money, being absolutely scarce. That's just a byproduct. Okay, it's going to absorb financial premium out of all of the less finite assets. But the true revolution of Bitcoin is this freedom go up. It's this sovereignty. It's the ability, like Matt has said a number of times today, to be your own bank, to be the custodian of your own wealth. I mean, it's your money. You've worked hard to acquire it over a long period of time. If you trust yourself and you believe you can do a better job, why on earth wouldn't you go down this path? So I think it doesn't need to be daunting. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. I think Tony often says on his podcast, you just got to learn a handful of simple steps. And when you have somebody kind of in bite-sized pieces kind of step you through that process, you just develop clarity and confidence along the way. Wouldn't you say, guys? You just, as you do each session, you just get more confident?
Yeah. And at the start, we were the same. It was nerve-wracking, especially because we aren't tech savvy. So we'd be quite nervous trying to do it. But then I can't remember who it was. It might have been Bert said, "Don't panic, guys. You're doing you're really fast." Like, but yeah, they tell you everything can. Yeah,
it is a bit of an eye opener to start with. You're like, wow, but I look at it as layers. It's just layered, and it's layered for that reason, all at once. And I think the whole journey's been like that. And I say journey, it's been 6 months.
We don't muck around.
But that's our patience level again. I can honestly say I haven't worked with anyone with that so much competence, if I can be honest. It doesn't matter where you go now. I call people robots just about anywhere. There's no, you don't get a personal service anymore. I think as you get older, you realise now, whether it's a cup of coffee somewhere or, your local pub even, it's pretty hard to get that human service, if that makes sense. Everything's digitalized, everything's online or, on the phone. You just don't get that service anymore. And I think they've got that old fashioned service, if that sounds plausible.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And nothing's too much trouble. If you find that something's gone over your head, they'll clarify it with you. You can always do another backup session if something felt a little rushed for you. Like you said, Bobby, if you wake up in the middle of the night in a bit of a cold sweat, you just drop a message in there and invariably you get a response within 15, 20 minutes and you're back on track. So that's great, guys. So basically, in a nutshell, what you guys have done is you've said, we really believe in this Bitcoin thing and we've got time on our side. Okay, we know, well, we're very confident where Bitcoin's going to be in the next decade or so. You guys have got time until you're going to retire anyway. And so you've said, well, why don't we access this pool of savings that we've acquired over a long period of time called superannuation? It's not going to disrupt our day-to-day life. And let's use that as our pool of capital to deploy into the best performing asset of all time. And that's essentially what you've done in a nutshell, yeah?
Yep, spot on.
Yeah,
exactly.
It is. And I think, I'm not sure who it was the other day I was listening to on a podcast, and I think it might have been Peter Dunworth. He said it is the best way to even protect you from the volatility, because you're not selling it in a year or 2 years. I mean, we're not selling anyway, but you don't need to look at it, to be honest. You can set and forget. There's no counterparty risk. There's no landlord. You're not being a landlord from a real estate venture where you've got all the fees and costs that go with it. You're not susceptible to inflation. You're not susceptible to an interest rate hike. Like all those things that go with owning that way we've been taught, with saving money on your tax. Here we go. We'll give you some negative gearing on your property so you can save money that they're overtaxing you on your income. It's like, the only people that get really rich out of that, in my opinion, at the moment, is the government. There's just more taxes incorporated in a sitting duck asset, which I believe they may come for next. You can't shift your house, can't shift your investment property.
That's very, very true. It's jurisdictionally tied down, isn't it? It's a very immobile form of asset, and I think more and more people are starting to realise this. And it's interesting that quite often I meet with people in real estate, property developers, very successful real estate agents, people with vast investment property portfolios, and invariably, when they come to me, they're going, Zane, we feel like this real estate thing is unsustainable, right? The costs, the changes to stamp duty and land tax and all of these regulations and all of this is just making us feel like the future for real estate in this country is not bright. We've kind of had this X opportunity in real estate. It's maxed out. It's not sustainable. And so let's get capital rotating into not a mature asset, but an emerging asset, an asset that most people don't yet understand, which is what Bitcoin is, an asset that 8 billion people are going to need as a place to park their economic value and savings once they realize what it is. So let's go and park our capital there, right, in this fixed finite deflationary protocol, and let's just ride out this storm, and let's just see where we sit in 5-10 years from now. So I'd agree. I think that a lot of people are starting to get a little nervous about real estate. It's a very cumbersome asset to hold. I think a lot of people have done very, very well out of it over a long period of time. I think the biggest beneficiaries of real estate have been the baby boomers over the last 40, 50 years. But I would argue that that moving forward, it's going to be a different story. I think people are going to be moving more and more towards digital real estate that is highly liquid, highly mobile, highly decentralized, no counterparties, no permission. It's not tied to one jurisdiction. It's a global asset. So
I tend to on that, Zane. Like, I'm not bashing real estate. I think it's run its race, and I think the fastest horse in the race now is Bitcoin. I mean, I think I read yesterday a house in 1966, 56%, your wage would go towards the house. You know what I mean? That's worth, so basically 2 years' wages would buy a house. Now it's 8%. So 8 years of your wage you need to buy a house. Just when you look at it like that, the baby boomers did lock in that price. So they are the beneficiaries, and they could leverage off that to buy the investment properties. But it's not like that now. Like, you look at debt, the debt keeps inflation, obviously, keeps the fair system running. So that's why we've got the inflation. So from my point of view, buying now is just a higher risk than it years prior. So
yeah. And to that point, Matt, like if you go and buy now, I mean, we've got this 5% deposit scheme now. So anybody who signs up for that, essentially they've got a death sentence with a mortgage, right? Like, they're going to have it for life pretty much, right? So and this is why I say to my kids in their 20s, forget all that. What you have to do is get yourself to a meaningful amount of sats or Bitcoin, right? 0.1, 10% of a Bitcoin is a really good target to have. That's 10 million Satoshis, right? Right now, I think it'll cost us about $13,000, $14,000 for 10,000 Satoshis. Now, they might not be able to do it today, but my kids have been bashing the table on this for the last 2 years. Get yourself to 0.1, a couple $100 a month, fortnight, whatever you can manage, and just keep going. That's the thing that in 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, you guys have got time on your side. By the time you're 40, late 30s, you can pay cash for a unit or a house. Everyone else is going to have this enormous mortgage that they're having to contend with and have had to put all of their income into just to stay afloat, right? And how stressful that is. Don't have to worry about that. Just focus on Bitcoin. That is an emerging asset. It's an emerging protocol. It's got all of the growth and the tailwinds behind it and the growth in front of it. So that's my philosophy. I've always been a property guy myself, but the more I study Bitcoin, the more I look at historical price growth, where things are going, the adoption curve. For me, it's really, really clear. And I really think that the next generation coming through, they have to be thinking outside the box.
Yeah,
how do you guys feel about that?
What we could tie in with that is not having the debt at a young age too. I think that just kills the younger generation. They've got time on their side, but the debt is where the materialistic things, I mean, Bobby would probably speak to this as well. When you do start stacking your stats and you set up your personal pool of Bitcoin, and then we've got our SMSF. I don't know if other viewers might see the same thing, but you just want to get rid of crap you don't need and stack sats. I mean, we went for a coffee today and Bobby's looking at the menu and she's like, this is just bullshit. The price, we're looking at inflation, and then we're like, we could make this at home. I was like, geez, that used to be me. like, and it does change your mindset. It pushes you in that direction of like, we're just getting fleeced here. We're just getting fleeced every time you look at a menu, it's more. And
it's not their fault. We're not.
it's just the system we're in. We had a cafe, like, and it's the prices are way more than when we sold out 2 years ago. Like, it's just so obvious when you know, and I don't think you can go back from there. So
once you know, you can't go back.
The young people with debt now, like I've got a young apprentice at work, $100,000 debt, second year apprentice for a car, for a Land Cruiser, and I'm just like, wow, like. That's the only reason this system survives, because those digits are just tenfold every time they hand out some digits on a screen. It is. It's just so bloody obvious. But
yeah. And it's such a good point, Matt, because, there's a saying out there, what would the price of a house be if you couldn't get a mortgage, right? Like once upon a time, like you said, it was 2 times the average annual wage back in the 60s or whenever, There was no 30-year mortgages back then. Who needed a 30-year mortgage?
There was no debt either. Debt wasn't given so easily and so freely. And I think we spoke about that with Bobby's mum today. Like, I remember the time where you couldn't get debt. Mum and Dad used to say you'd have to dress up and see the bank manager for $1,000 to renovate the house. And that's when they bought the house at 3 times or 2 times their yearly wage. But I think when we moved in together, it was just that interest-free option at Harvey Norman, and it's like, wow, you can walk in and buy a TV and walk out without any. But that's why debt has been now readily given so freely, because they need that to drive the system.
Inflation.
Otherwise, it's always just going to collapse.
But it's such a good point, and it's just this realisation that in a credit-based system, so they're issuing credit, which is generating more debt, so being the recipients of that, we're getting credit from the banks and we are the holders of that debt. That is what ultimately drives inflation. And we see this manifest itself in the greatest way, in the most visible way, in the housing market. This is why people who understand this at a deep level, they refer to the Australian housing market as a Ponzi scheme, because it's just being driven purely by a debt. And unfortunately, it's only those who have scarce desirable real estate or multiple properties that are the biggest beneficiaries of that. It's not the people who are trying to get into the housing market or don't happen to be the owners of real estate. They're the ones that are really getting left behind. And so you're concentrating the wealth into the hands of a very select few at the top. And this is what's creating this sense of unease in this country now, where average people just feel like there's no chance of living the great Australian dream. There's no chance of getting ahead. And so people are either leaving, getting out of here, right, where they can build a future for themselves and survive on far less cost of living, or they're just accepting the fact that life's going to be tough, and it's a really sad situation when we live in such a beautiful country and we should be one of the richest countries on earth. And it's really sad to see.
It really is just run by Muppets. At the end of the day, they're not going to fix the problem when they reap the benefits of the taxes involved, especially with property. I mean, it's indexed. So the price of a house goes up, stamp duty goes with it.
It's just a big monster that,
And when
going to end not very good, but
hopefully we're on the right side of history.
Is there anything for you guys that concerns you about the future of Bitcoin in all the time you've spent listening and reading and what have you? Is there anything that kind of keeps you up at night? Maybe I'm wrong about this. Is there anything that's on your case about this that could be a concern, or are you guys just absolutely?
Pretty much fully convicted. I am anyway.
There is a couple of things.
If people stop using it, I suppose, but I just can't see how it's gonna.
I get concerned with the adoption of the big end of town with it a bit, and the government. I don't think the government have quite woken up to the self-custody side of things. I don't think it'll be long. I think they might not let you self-custody within a SMSF. That's a feeling I get. I think Matthew Fraser might have been discussing this on an interview recently with Sean Clark. And I think the banks might want to control it sooner or later. I think they're waking up a bit too, especially with what people go through with transferring funds from fiat to Bitcoin, I think the banks will want to sell you the Bitcoin and have them look after it for you, just like our fiat now. But how that plays out, who
No one
knows?
knows.
But that's why, again, point to self-custody as being one of the most important things, because once you've got it, you've got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's our
I think that's a really good point, Matt. And this is why we kind of intuitively feel there's this window of opportunity, because at any time they could really close the on-ramps. They could actually make it impossible for people to onboard onto exchanges, into brokerages. And we're already seeing that there's limits being placed on withdrawals with certain banks and all of that. So, I think everything suggests to me that that's possibly one of the things that is coming next. We don't know for sure, but it is something certainly to be paying attention to. If you're interested in learning about Bitcoin and getting started on your Bitcoin journey, it might be something just to consider how important it is to act sooner rather than later. That would be my view on that.
Yeah, you'd rather be ready than
scrambling.
Scrambling.
What's the saying? You get your Bitcoin at the price you'll deserve. I'm not sure how I quoted on that, but many a podcast, there's lots of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's, historically we've seen that that's pretty much the case. The longer you delay and sit on the sidelines and procrastinate and double guess yourself, the more expensive it is for you to onboard. The more dollars you need in order to buy the same amount of Bitcoin. So I think that's a really good point to keep in mind as well. Guys, what I'd love to do is just finish off here today with a little bit around community. How important is it to you guys? I know that you guys joined my community and are connected with some really awesome like-minded Aussies who are on a similar path. But for you guys, how important was it to connect with other people who are on a similar journey?
Oh, very important, I think. I think it keeps that buzz going. Like, I think when you join a group of anything, I think it just keeps that vibe, well, we call it signal, and you can use that to drown out the other noise. I think if you stay in your group, you stay in your lane and realise that other people are doing exactly the same. We've all been different. We're all, but now when you get there, I remember first joining the group, there was people in front of us where we were on the journey, and you're like, what? There's that patience thing again. We want to be there, and you don't quite understand what they're speaking about, but well, that won't be long and we'll be there too. So,
and just questions and you have to have like-minded people around, otherwise you'll go backwards or you'll go back into that old system. Like, you need to be surrounded by people that are on the same signal as you.
And that's what your success circle gave us. That first call with you, and then we signed up with you for the success circle. I think we were number 21. I think we're number 20.
I'll have to look it up. But yeah,
what have we got
cool.
now? 50 something. So
I think there's about 50 in there, but yeah, no, I agree, because look, at its core, what I really believe is that Bitcoin it really tests you emotionally and mentally. And so the more that you're around people who are on a similar path and are going through similar emotions and ups and downs, and, we can have these open discussions and supportive touch points, to kind of just keep everybody on the same path. It's not a cult. It's just a realization that this is a transition, right? We are pioneers. We are right at the forefront of this great wealth shift, of this great monetary transition. And, when something is new and you're really part of that first group, I just think one of the most valuable things you can do is to bounce off and connect with and share with people who are on a similar path, because I just hear so often that people say to me, oh, there's nobody in my friendship circle or in my family who understands what I'm going through or what I'm learning. They all think I'm crazy. And I'm like, that's why you have to tap into a community. You've got to be around like-minded people. Go and find a new family.
Yeah, definitely. And we are lucky because we are both so deep in it.
And
and my mum and my brother. So we have got, there's a few of us that are,
Yeah, we're passing them on to the same people, Storm Rake, Natalia.
Just doing this. Yeah.
And that is good. That feels good because it just cements, like you said, you've got them support. We've got others that don't, or some we don't even tell. But yeah, if they ask, we'll help. But we don't go bashing them over the head with it all the time. Or we try not to.
Just the kids.
The kids are over it, I think.
Guys, just before we wrap, I just want to ask you one more thing. Where do you think these decisions you're making today, where do you think it's going to have you positioned in, say, a decade? Are you feeling like the decisions you're making today are really going to pay off for yourself and your kids in the next 10 to 15 years?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Most definitely, mate. I mean, yeah.
I don't see another way. I either see it as stay as you are in going the way you are, or look into Bitcoin and get on a Bitcoin standard, and
Otherwise,
life should be sweet.
Work harder and stay in that system, or 10 years time, live better.
Freedom, I think, like not attached to anything. Like, that's where I see myself anyway, not having so much attachment to things, and
So be future focused, keep your eye on the prize, don't get distracted, play the long game.
Yep.
Definitely. Time horizon's everything. You've taught us that, Zane, so thanks.
Yeah, no, I really believe it's one of the most important things. And I think, as you guys said, one of the beauties of doing it the way you guys have done it is the fact that, you're in a system with super and self-managed that there's not a lot you can do between now and your mid-60s. So you're going to just ride out this storm. And the beautiful thing is that it's sitting there and it's waiting for you. And you guys, your only job is to just stay educating yourself. And if you do that, the future's going to be really, really bright. Guys, I really appreciate your time today. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Any kind of a message or any kind of a hurry up you want to give everyone?
If you're new, just watch a 40-minute video of Joe Bryan. What's the problem? That's my message. Like, I don't just learn it.
Yeah.
Look into it.
Just be open-minded. I think a lot of people try to shoot holes in it before they try and understand it. My motto is it's easier to fool someone than to convince someone they've been fooled. I think that was Mark Twain. But it is true. I think we've been fooled, and I think when you wake up,
have a look.
Get on the bus.
Might be for you, and you might never look back like we haven't.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way to end the conversation, guys. I want to thank you again for your time. I really appreciate you guys and what you've had to share. I'm sure the listeners are going to get some real nuggets of wisdom out of today's conversation. I look forward to continuing to serve you guys inside the Success Circle community and to forge forward with our relationship. Guys, thank you for listening. This is Bitcoin with ZT, where real conversations meet real conviction. We'll see you in the next one.